Hello, Internet. Welcome to another Wednesday serial. I just want to run through my monthly pickups and talk about it because that seems like something to do. Okay, so first up we have Deadpool Bad Blood with Liefeld and Sims and creators that I'm generally not too fond of. This is going back to the early X-Force days. I picking it up mostly out of completionism. It's kind of quirky and fun, but I would not recommend it for anyone who would be looking for recommendations. Next, uh, we get the final issue of the first arc of Wells' takeover on Amazing Spider Man. I am loving this run so far. It may not be quite the heights of the arc we just kind of swung out of with the group creative team and whatnot, the Beyond stuff. I did really enjoy that. Uh, but this has been really fun too. Now that we're past Spencer, I'm just loving Amazing again. And then I also got issue 900. What's really interesting comparing these two is this was kind of a grittier crime story, harkening to maybe some of the more 80s days of Spider-Man. And this one was more of a quirky, fun issue. It felt like they were done by different creators almost. But I like both of them in different ways. So that was fun. My big complaint actually is this issue 900 was this big square bound thing. It did not fit in my normal bag, so I had to go pull an old like Silver Age bag or something to make it work. Boo hoo. I don't know. Miles Morales Spider Man is going as we're winding down on the Ahmed run. We're at 40 issues. So he's been at it a while. Really built up Miles in a way that I think is important as the character is getting all this multimedia attention. Having this take that reground the character because through Bendis's run, the character was like the ultimate Spider-Man to being absorbed in the 616. There's all these continuity problems. Technically, there still are, but they're past at this point. And really done a lot for this character, and I'm really curious to see where they go. I don't know. I don't think that run could have been better. And there's a few issues to go yet. Ninja Turtles 130. I'm really happy with where the are moving as they go to the Armageddon game. It's hard to ignore the fact 130, 131, and the first issue of Armageddon game. I just kind of read them all at once, so they blur in my mind. But we are moving towards the Armageddon game. It's hard to ignore that Waltz is back on the book, and the quality jumped immediately. Campbell has been really pushing this Mutant thing, made it like a slice of life comic. Not as much fun for me. Really glad we're getting back to action adventure fun. Um, yeah. I've been picking up Dark Crisis. I don't know what's going on right now. Basically, a lot of hoopla, but not a lot of understanding or meaning. But I also have been getting Duo, which is a book I'd highly recommend that I'm guessing some of you haven't been picking up. The idea is like this couple created this kind of like nanotechnology that would like heal wounds, was able to kind of like clone on the fly different things. People very quickly saw the eugenics potential of how this could work if you took the technology in a different direction. And now they're finding out that because they essentially found the secret to immortality, a la kind of the X-Men in a weird way, there's also another organization that has been immortal, and they're taking issue with these guys' technology, and it's very interesting. Another wrinkle in this series is that the man survived. I kind of wish they had reversed this, but the man had survived, and the woman is living in his head. Now, where I don't mind it as much, even though I do kind of wish they flipped it, is that like the guy's living by, and she's trying to hold on basically with her consciousness until they can find a way to get her into a new body. Um, but she's in every one of his thoughts. So like if he's accidentally looking at someone's ass or something, she can sense it. And she's there. And it's just weird. I don't know, it's just a really interesting comic with a lot going on. Uh Yeah, I'd recommend it. Another note I'd say is that this is Earth M, which means it's not DC continuity. So I think that opens the book up a bit, which is good as well. Then we get to stuff I don't know. Uh, Spider Punk is a lot of kind of recycled ideas. Captain America's like this, the Sorcerer Supreme's like this. They're all punk. It's very poorly thought out, poorly presented. It's not worth your time. The Savage Spider-Man thing ended. This series has really changed my opinion of Joe Kelly for the worse. I'm no longer going to pick up anything with his name on it. Uh, and this is also questioning my ability to buy any Spider-Man mini. This whole series was, after Nonstop, was abysmal, and uh, it's making me be more cautious about what I look at in the future. Speaking on that line, Spider Verse is happening, which is very much like the What If Miles Morales book. Both of these are these side spider characters and incarnations of them that are other heroes from the Marvel universe, from other universes colliding against each other, happening at the same time, printed at the same time. There's no way that people are not comparing these books to each other, and they both just kind of suck. I I don't know, but I'm getting the next Spider Verse thing because Dan Slott's doing it because I'm a hopeless corporate whore. So I don't know. I wish I had something more to say, but I'm basically skimming these comics because they're so brain dead. There's nothing there. It's what is the Miles Thor like? What is the Gwen Thor like? And it's all the ephemeral ideas. It's very surface level. There's no story there. Um, it hurts a little bit to go through. Um, then there's the Spider-Man 2099 thing going. I got two issues. I double back this one. I don't know. This one's a little different in that they're trying to slip in 2099 characters. Um, kind of on the back end. So like Spider-Man will meet a character and then they have their story, which is most of the issue, and then there's this back end and it's kind of building to this big ending. Uh, I don't think it's great, but at least it's a story. It's moving. It's building the 2099 averse, I guess. Um, yeah. Then, oh, I guess I should go to this one. Superman Space Age #1, incredible. Um, I, this is only the one issue of three, if my memory is serving me. Again, that's square bound things. I had to go find another older bag and board, but this really, unlike Spider-Man life story that was like, what if Spider-Man was growing up through the ages, which is, God, I remember seeing all those reviews like, what a novel idea. I'm like, no, it's not. No. Uh, this is much more novel. This is taking the idea of the space race and kind of the fears of communism, the politics of the 60s and the day and whatnot, and placing Superman and a lot of the DC mythos in that era, kind of a la New Frontier, but in, I believe, a bit more historically relevant way as opposed to a reminiscent kind of way. I I don't know. This is one to watch. If they continue this quality and build and have a strong conclusion, this is going to become the next big DC book everyone's going to want to have on their shelf. Kingdom Come or New Frontier, like I just said, or anything like that. This is on its way to being like that. This is only the first issue. So, one of the best books I've read in a while. I'm glad I got over my bit with Allred because he's in a lot of great books. I don't know what it was before. I'm all on board now. Uh, yeah. Then there's Saga. This is chapter 60, right before their next hiatus. I'm really hoping that they take some time, kind of refocus, and gives some hope, gives something to cling on to, because this uh, what was it, 6 issues? Since the big hiatus happened, have been very much about coping and getting by and whatnot. Don't get me wrong, there's a place for that. But right as it felt like we were getting somewhere, they're cutting the cord again. And it hurt because I was still enjoying it somewhat, but needed the story to go. Um, Once and Future is continuing at this point. I don't know how to put it. I mean, it's not negative, but this is just another chapter of Once and Future again. I feel like it's going to be like that way for a while because if we're not reaching an ending, we're reaching a kind of climax of a bigger arc at least. And I kind of just want us to get there at this point because it's so much of where we started this book. They're on the run, there's all this mythos, they're learning, they're dealing, they're gearing up for a fight, they know they need to do something, but they're not really doing it yet. And at this point, I feel like the book's in limbo. There's still enough pacing and build and ideas happening that I think it's working, but if anyone else is like me, if you're not rereading this book, especially, it's really hard to keep track of all the mythology because Galahad and the Green Knight and Arthur and other characters, Galahad, Grendel, they're all these weird monstrous looking things, and I don't remember which one's which because they look very similar to me. It's interesting because if I compare this to like Berserk, those monsters have very unique designs, and I can remember which is which because it's like Knight Skullhead. Sure, I remember that one. The one that's Griffin. Sure. This one, they're very cut of the same cloth. And I don't know. Um, Also, kind of in that vein, I guess we're winding down on Deadly Class. Um, I have actually really enjoyed this book a lot more since we took the time leap, and now that every issue is kind of like a few years happening and whatnot, I've actually really latched onto the book again. I find it a lot more compelling, and I'm actually kind of sad it's ending in so many issues because I'm thinking this arc, this what they're doing here, seems like they could have maybe used a couple more to flesh out a couple ideas, maybe give it a little more breath, as opposed to some of the stuff that was happening in the 80s with all the school stuff where I felt like they could have cut a couple issues because not that much was happening. So I don't know, but I'm gonna ride this to the end at this point. Obviously, I mean, why wouldn't I? Black Panther, decent book. I'm dropping it. I like the Marvel politics, but yeah, I'm kind of looking for a few books to drop, especially Marvel books. And those books that are kind of like gridded and they have like this has an art style very reminiscent of the cover, but pulled back a little less detail because it's all interior pages. And um I don't know how to put it. It doesn't feel very comic booky. It feels very storyboardy. There's stuff happening, but it's like frames of shots, not action moving across a page. And that's really bringing this book down. It's not bad art, but it's not great comic art. So I don't know. That made it easier to drop, and this also feels very much like the kind of book that you can get the entire story on Wikipedia. I don't know. Next is Iron Cat, issues 1 and 2. I like where this is going. Iron Cat, spoilers, isn't Black Cat in the iron suit. It's someone who stole the iron suit from an earlier arc, and Iron Man and Catwoman are dealing with it. I think it's a really fun premise. It's bringing kind of different characters together. This feels like a kind of Marvel team up thing that actually expands and isn't, I don't know, crime of convenience or making a sale. Like this is actually a really fun book, and I think is the height of what McKay's done so far. So, hooray. Daredevil is back after Devil's Reign, and they're finally getting to this arc that they've been building through Zdarsky's run. It's fine. I it shouldn't be a new number one though. It should be the next number in Zdarsky's run, and they should let that go through, especially because they're still using Crocetta. I don't know, same artist, same principal writer. Like that is the same run. I hate that Marvel does this when they have principal creators going through run. Make that the run, then get a new number one when you get a new set of creators. That makes so much more sense. But I mean, this issue is not an issue on its own. If you're picking this up as a new issue number one, you're gonna be lost. Uh, there's no way around it. So yeah, Reckoning War with Slott's Fantastic Four. We get one more issue um, that's supposed to help wrap this up of Slott's Fantastic Four. This Reckoning War hasn't been bad per se, but it's just kind of felt like some things have happened and now it's wrapping up. It's not the culmination of all these years and other threads that of things that have happened that is kind of promised to be. And so it feels like a bit of a letdown. I feel like maybe if I reread it with a little more understanding, maybe I get a little more out of it, but I don't think this is ever going to reach the heights that it was supposed to. That being said, I don't dislike it. I just this didn't reach where it was supposed to go. What's the furthest place from here? Not that great. New Fantastic Four, fun. I actually think it's a really interesting book with a bunch of interesting characters, worth checking out. And Radiant Black just keeps going. Interesting slice of life blended with super heroics. Radiant Red has been a real good side piece to Radiant Black. I feel like it's actually really expanding the universe while they've set up such a great kind of like theme and idea that it's really working out. And also, Radiant Red works. Radiant Black, I'm still kind of like, oh, it's a white guy. Like, what were you thinking? Um, Alice Ever After is an interesting take. That's not even right. It's Alice later in life. She's in an insane asylum because, obviously, I guess. I don't know. These stories of the sane person in the insane asylum because they have a somewhat fantastic life kind of bothers me. I get with Alice and the time frame that they put it in that they're talking about the hysterics of women. That was something that happened. So it has resonance. I don't know. This one hasn't really sung with me. Dr. Wilder was a miss. This is a story about this like femme fatale group that is anti-poacher, and there's so much potential of all these cool animal drawings, do all this stuff, but they set it like in a city and they made it a very standard like thriller, and that's just such a miss. You had this idea to have this really colorful thing, and every issue could have been its own little bit. You learn a little bit about part of the world, the animals there, how the poachers interact with it, and they could just punisher them. Uh, that's all it had to be, and it didn't go there. And I don't know. Um, Mindset is playing kind of in a similar area to what Echo was that I was talking about earlier. With this weird idea, there's this app where you can like control people's minds. Um, I don't know. It's still developing. This was only issue one. The art's very kind of this cover, this very kind of like washed out feel. It's interesting. I'm not 100% on how I feel this one, but I'll be getting the next few issues, so we'll see. Moon Knight. I'm dropping this book. Earlier I was saying McKay had his best work with Iron Cat. This is not his best work. All the cool stuff they talk about Moon Knight doing is stuff they talk about him doing. We don't see any of it. And it just feels compromised. Moon Knight Black, White, and Red has been interesting, fun. I think it works well with this kind of a fad that's going on. I think this is kind of the last of that fad. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, Gambit #1. This book's going to be under a bit more scrutiny now that Claremont has some heat on him due to a C2E2 panel. If you didn't hear about that, he talked about this idea of uh, Kitty getting washed away to Wakanda, where Aurora and Black Panther were still a couple, a la what he had in X-Men Forever. And Kitty would go through this ritual where she would become black. And a lot of people said that was racist, which is weird. It's like transracial, which I get isn't like a thing in real life. But for X-Men, uh, that seems like the kind of plot thing to talk about. Trans, but I mean also like racial ideas, code switching, in a very on the nose, but through metaphor and metaphysics kind of way. Seemed very X-Men to me. I didn't get why people were mad about it. Uh okay. Anyways, this book is harkening back to when Storm was made a kid again and was working with Gambit, and he's kind of having his arc that I think he wanted to do but didn't have the time to do, or thought something else was more important at the pretty much near the end of his run. Yeah, next is the variants 1 and 2. This is Jessica Jones multiversal characters all coming through and causing this problem, as the Purple Man had revealed that there's a trigger kind of like installed in her where she's going to try to hurt her family, basically, which was a failsafe he put in, basically. I I don't know. I think this is interesting. This is a pretty high concept book, well done in Marvel, and it has a clear endpoint. So I'm kind of curious to see how it goes. But this is Gail Simone's return to Marvel, and it's a good book. Okay, X-Men Red. We're dealing with this planetary stuff, but this is more Sunspot being reborn and dealing with some of that. At the same time, Magneto and Storm are giving up their ability to be reborn to kind of make a political statement on Arakko, not Mars. And it's compelling. It's good. It's just I don't think they've fully explored kind of some of the weight of what they're putting down here by saying the X-Men did this. Then there is the X-Men Hellfire Gala, and I hate this book. I hate this book so much. It is so bad. Dugan was cool on Deadpool and Marauders, but once he got to X-Men, um, this book, if you haven't been following half of the Marvel universe for the last 10, 15 years, this isn't gonna make any goddamn sense. Uh, MJ, because her aunt was taking one of the Krakoan medicines, which was revealed in the Free Comic Book Day issue. I don't even remember this. It had to have happened like that, or maybe I don't have it. Um, because of that, she was invited to the Hellfire Gala, but Moira McTaggart has possessed her body so that she could stealth attend. Meanwhile, there's something weird with Spider-Man and MJ there, which really doesn't make sense given where they left and beyond, but where they are now makes their interaction make even less sense, because if MJ was going to come to this, she would have come with her now boyfriend. So I don't know. Also, Logan doesn't know who Mary Jane is here, which doesn't make sense because he knows who Mary Jane is. Um, that's just the Spider-Man stuff in this book. Which, why are we talking about that in an X-Men book? Because they're gonna do a Spider-Man X-Men crossover with Chasm, who's Ben Riley, and the Goblin Queen, who's in another X book but not here. Eventually, and they announced the new X-Men, and and they make a big deal about Firestar being on the team because Emma rejected her in the past. I didn't read that story because I don't think that story happened in my lifetime. I the polls and expectations they're making here are so all over the place. Um, yeah. Also, everyone looks stupid. Um, sorry, that's enough there. X Force has this really interesting idea of how Quentin dies and actually dies in this book. Spoilers, but that's what's relevant. Um, Wolverine patch. It's Larry Hama on Wolverine again, and very in the vein of what he did, where it's Wolverine out dealing with guerrilla forces, and it's the story that's building on itself, and Wolverine happens to be there, but it doesn't have any greater significance to anything else. So, very much, if you liked Larry Hama Wolverine, this is more of it. Cool. I don't know. I find more appreciation for that idea now than when I was going through and reading all the Larry Hama Wolverine last year. Uh, this Wolverine 23 is kind of the ethos of why they're bringing Deadpool to X Force, which doesn't make sense now that I read it, because Wolverine seems to let him on because Deadpool cares enough about Blind Owl to make a vive for her to get one of the Krakoan drugs so that she can live. And that instills something in Wolverine to let Deadpool on the team. I mean, as much as I've kind of liked Benjamin Percy's take on Wolverine and Deadpool, his idea of the interaction between them doesn't make any sense. Because when Deadpool was on X Force, when Remender was doing it, they had a respect. And frankly, their respect has only been built through everything up until the Krakoan era. And then it went away. Like so many plot threads went away once the Krakoan era happened, but that one in particular was damning because it didn't make any sense. And Deadpool has pretty tight connections to a number of characters on that island, but most of them got de-aged, so they don't remember now, I guess. Um, Sabretooth took a hard churn, 4 or 5, and I don't mean like quality wise. I mean, it was this very like biblical allegory idea, and then I don't know. I just it kind of became something else. So now he's off to lead his exiles, which is like the damned that Krakoa has left behind, which is an interesting angle. But if they had just built that up from the beginning instead of having this biblical idea, it would have been cleaner. Um, this book needed an editor. And maybe that's a big problem that I'm seeing more now that we're on this destiny of X rather than the initial lead off of this new X-Men era, is that these books need a better editor, not just for the books themselves sometimes, but for the office in general. Like, there's a lot going on, and a lot of these books expect that you're reading at least most of the other books. So I think they're dropping the ball. Um, New Mutants continues. This is trying to bring solace to the Magic miniseries that happened in what 1984 or whatever. Um, I, why this has been done more than once already? Why are we here again? This is my problem with this New Mutants run, and in general, a lot of the stuff again of the Krakoa stuff is they're picking up stuff it's already been that should have already been dealt or was already dealt with, and then I guess wasn't. And I don't know. I don't know where these characters are anymore. Like we're dealing with the New Mutants, but so many of these characters were in X Force and X Factor and moved on from all this shit, and now they're drudging it up again. Like they just have collective amnesia. I don't. It's maddening because they'll pull stuff from the original New Mutants run, like when Claremont was doing it, all of the Magic run and Magic's Belasco uh, problem. And then other times they'll talk about like Wolfsbane had a child and she dealt with that, but like, but she's a kid again, and I don't. But then like she'll act completely immature because she is a kid again. Like it doesn't. Doesn't work. New Mutants in particular, it just doesn't work, and I keep getting it because I'm a friggin' masochist, I guess. Marauders continues. Tempo is a dumb character. I don't really know what her power is. I don't really know what's going on at this point. They just seem to be like, we're dealing with all the bad characters. This is basically the new bad team X book now, because it's the characters they don't like trying to save the day or whatever. Legion of X. Here we go. Here's something positive, though this feels kind of like they're trying to do DC's, Legion superheroes, but with X, and it's Nightcrawler leading it, who was the character who came over from the Legion technically. And this issue in particular is a lot of Juggernaut trying to find some meaning on the island and getting advice from the character Legion, kind of in place of what Charles Xavier is saying, and them talking about how Charles is, providing opportunities, but also kind of an ass, and like bonding over that in a weird way. This was a really good issue that actually took characters that don't really have have connections, but don't really have a history with each other, and like making something much more out of it. What a huge win. Knights of X is connected but off in its own universe, literally. But they're moving forward with this fantasy thing, but this feels like reading Prince Valiant a la X-Men at this point. It is kind of wild. The Immortal X-Men, this issue is really preparing for the Gallet issue that I brought up earlier, but actually put more weight on it in a weird way. This is reacting to what's happening in X-Men proper, where Cyclops allowed Ben Urk to remember that the X-Men are immortal and that he found that out, and then the news gets out, and then all these people are talking about it. And there's a really brilliant part in here where there's like a protest against the mutants, and one of the people there is someone who their son just died, and they feel bad. Like they're like the psychic character knows that, but isn't really saying anything about it because they're like, this is for mutants only. But they're also kind of rebuffing, like the Avengers, or I guess that happened in the Gala issue, or but also like a world executive here, basically saying like, this is for mutants only, because we were dealing with all this and you guys weren't here, which is such a fucking it's such a fucking asinine argument. I keep hearing it around this X-Men stuff, and it's really annoying when you see the characters talking about that when they're talking to like an African world leader or something. It's like, you haven't had to deal with anything and everyone was always there for you. And it's like, I don't you fucking stuck up pigs. Other people have problems and didn't get help necessarily either. Like, I get it when it's a condemnation within American politics, but once they go global and talk to like third world leaders with the same fucking condemnation that they talk to American senators with, it's so fucking tone deaf. They've so lost sight what they are because they're so up their own ass. I It's hard to read. It's genuinely hard to read because they need an editor with a more worldly view, and also maybe, God, I want to pitch an Orcus book to them, because the idea that there would be an agency to push back on the mutants that have a instant port that can't be detected, that can bring any number of weaponized people through at any given time without detection to any or all, not just like continents, but like countries, but like also like within a network grid, like even across the US, there's reportedly so many portals already, including one in one guy's just like backyard. Uh, like if if they had any malice towards like I don't know France, let's just say, they could literally build a series of like not very complex but relatively powerful bombs and literally just send Quicksilver and maybe another speedster through and set one up in a grid and have it out within 5 minutes, then set them all off and no more France. Like the military might presented by what is happening with Jadosha would make anybody nervous if they think mutants had any potential ill will towards them, earned or unearned. And the that nobody's like, oh yeah, nobody should stop them because they're just living their best life when they have a freaking black ops team running around murdering people. Oh, they don't even need Quicksilver. They can send the Blob through because it doesn't matter if they murder him; they'll just bring him back. They, I, it's so easy to see it from the other side, and the fact that they don't even try. Oh my god. On that note, Judgment Day. It's another team of Marvel that's going to go against the X-Men since this new status quo. But the X-Men are the good guys, of course, because the Eternals are mad that they're immortal now, too. Because that's the reason to be mad at them right now. They're alive. So stupid. Um, the Excellent is moving forward, speaking of Allred, and this is a really interesting book. I still haven't finished X-Statix, but I read the X Factor issues before, which I think is actually more relevant to this book. Um, this is an interesting side thing. It doesn't have nothing to do with the new X-Men status quo, but other than just kind of the status quo existing, it doesn't have anything else to do with it. So it's actually a really interesting take. Though there is Doctor Strange, and technically Doctor Strange is dead right now, so it might be technically out of continuity. I don't care. It's a fun book. Uh, what else? Oh, I got some trades. Here's at least the main ones. I got the first. They're reprinting some Astro City, the Metro book, so I'm going to be doing this collection to just get all of Astro City because some of the collections are impossible now. So I just figured I'd have one nice collection. Then I got The Last Ronin hardback. I'm going to enjoy reading it like this. I think I still have all my originals. But at this point, I'm afraid to touch them because they're worth more than I am. Yeah. Oh, and since it's right here, I'm gonna pick this up recently. The Superman Madman crossover. Looking forward to that. Yeah, comics, like them, lump them. Just talking about them. Hit me up with your thoughts. Ping me. Peace.